I mean, I wake up every single morning to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. So together, each of us can change our world for the better. And I live my life with a very clear vision as well. I imagine a world, you said a little bit of it up front, I imagine a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning inspired, feel safe wherever they are, and end the day fulfilled by the work that they do. And I've committed my career and my life to advancing towards that vision. When you say what do most people get wrong in leadership, I think leadership is a misunderstood skill set. First of all, it absolutely is a skill set. There's no such thing as a natural born leader. Even the leaders that appear to have natural capacity, I guarantee they learned it when they were younger. They had a mentor, a parent, a coach, a guardian, somebody that helped them learn these skills. Number one, leadership is nothing about being in charge. It's the awesome responsibility to see those around us rise. It's about taking care of those in our charge. The closest analogy I can give to being a great leader is like being a great parent. Yes, I know you don't get to pick your team sometimes, but you don't get to pick your children either. And yet you show up with love every day. And you work tirelessly to see that they will gain the skills and the confidence to do well and excel in their lives. And great leaders are doing exactly the same thing. And leadership is all about human skills. And leaders who become great leaders, it's because they study leadership. They're obsessed with it. They read books about it, they watch talks about it, they read articles about it, and when you go out with them, all they want to do is talk about it. They're obsessed with the concept. Just like parents. There's no such thing as an expert parent, but you read articles, you read books, you talk to other parents, and you solve problems along the way. We talk about hard skills and soft skills. I despise the term soft skills because there's nothing soft about them, number one. And number two, hard and soft are opposites. And these two things are not working against each other. Hard skills are clearly the skills you need to do your job. You know, I wouldn't trust you to give me medical advice if you didn't go to medical school and pass some of the tests that they give you. Those are hard skills, right? I like human skills, not soft skills. And human skills are the skills you need to be a better human being. And human skills make you a better leader. They give you a better bedside manner. They make you a better team member and teammate, right? And we don't teach human skills. We just don't teach them. So a lot of people are bad team members or substandard team members or substandard leaders, not because they're bad people. They just have never been given the education. I would never expect you to know how to do surgery without training. How can I expect you to lead without training? It's a skill. And so we built the Optimism Company to fill that gap and teach human skills only. Things like how to listen. Things like how to have an effective confrontation. Like somebody screwed up badly, or you need to go up the chain of command. Your boss is an idiot. How do you tell your boss they're an idiot? In a way that they will hear the information rather than just be defensive, right? And it goes in every direction in an org chart. How to give and receive feedback. We all give feedback the way we like to receive it. Turns out, not everybody likes to receive feedback the way we like to get it. Turns out. So these are some of the skills we're dedicated to teaching. And the amazing thing is, when you talk about improving lives, like you're devoted to helping people improve lives, turns out if you teach the skills at work in order to help them improve work, turns out once you have those skills, you have those skills. And you find that companies that do a good job of teaching human skills, the people who work at those companies tend to have better marriages, they tend to have better relationships with their kids, because all those skills come home. You know, if you get better at listening, guess what? You're better at listening to your spouse. You know, if something goes wrong at home and you've learned how to give feedback or receive feedback, guess what? It works at home too. So when you talk about improving lives, this is what I'm talking about, the ripples of our work.
Who are teaching us values? Who are teaching us service? Who's teaching us kindness and empathy? In leaderless times and lost times, we will follow things that make us feel good, right? Wealth makes us feel good. Conspicuous consumption makes us feel good because you get that hit of serotonin and dopamine. This is the reason why I've become really fascinated by the concept of friendship. You know, I haven't written a book in many years, and so I've started writing again. And I'm writing a book with a friend, my friend Will Guidera, who wrote Unreasonable Hospitality. And we've decided to write about friendship because when you think about all of the problems that we're facing today, mental fitness, mental health, rising suicide, rising anxiety, depression, addiction, I mean, take your list, even people's obsession with longevity. And everybody's looking for a biohack for all those things. And there's one biohack that's better than all of the things that we're trying, which is friendship. people with close friendships are healthier, they live longer, they have better coping mechanisms, which means they better deal with stress. And I'll give you an amazing thing. So there's a very famous experiment that was done, I think in the 60s. All of our sort of understanding of addiction is based on this study. It's basically they put a rat in a cage and they gave it plain water, or they gave it water laced with drugs. And it tasted both. It got addicted to the water laced with drugs and eventually drank that water until it died, right? And so this became our understanding of addiction. Many years later, not that long ago, another scientist said, hold on, there's a problem with this experiment. A rat, like a person, is a social animal. And you took this social animal and you put it by itself and then offered it drugs. So you created loneliness and then you offered the drug, right? If you want to make it a good experiment, you have to create the right context. So what it did, they created something called Rat Park, where basically what they did is they created a new cage filled with things to do and mazes and wheels and other rats, and they were social. And the rats tasted both waters, the one laced with morphine and the one that was just plain. They drank enough of the morphine-laced one to get addicted, and then they stopped. It diminishes how much they drank, and they only drank the plain water. So basically, when you have healthy relationships, we are less likely to become addicted. When we are lonely, we are more likely to create addiction. Right? Friendship is the thing that actually protects us. And then if you look at, even if you do become addicted, right? Let's take the worst case scenario. So let's look at alcoholism, right? Alcoholism, we know that to beat alcoholism, you join AA, community. And everybody talks about the importance of community and finding your community, right? But Alcoholics Anonymous knows that there's these 12 steps. And if you master 11 of the 12 steps, the disease is probably going to get you. But if you master the 12th step, the final step, you're more likely to overcome the disease. So what's the 12th step? The 12th step is to help another alcoholic, to become someone's sponsor. In other words, to become a friend. In other words, community, you find community, but then the final step of beating the disease is a friend, where you replace the community with a friend, and you have both. And we think community is the thing, but it's not enough. Yes, you can create belonging with community. And people, where we started talking about it, where people are latching onto these anti-establishment populist movements. It's giving them a sense of community. It's giving them a sense of shared purpose with a group of people, right? But it's also providing new social connections. One of the things we don't do is we are not good at making friends, and we're not good at looking after friends. There's an entire industry to help people like us become better leaders. I'm a part of it. I write books about it, right? There's an entire industry to help people be better parents. And if you're going to have a child, if you've got a child with problems, you read all the books about how to be a better parent. There are no books, or precious few books, to teach us, and there's no industry to teach us how to be a better friend. Like, are you a good friend? Are you a good friend to your friends? Are your friends good to you? Who do you call people when you are stuck and down? Or do you make TikTok videos by yourself? Which, and you get, literally people who are depressed make TikTok videos by themselves. I don't know how many times they reshoot that either. To post it to get the validation for their feelings. But to call a friend and say the same thing you're struggling with is actually more difficult.
Why doesn't the industry exist? Because typically...
we take it for granted.
Yeah, so the demand isn't there for those kinds of things.
But that's the problem, which is I think the demand is there, we don't realize it, right? Like, we know that our relationships fail and our marriages fail, so there's an entire industry to help us maintain better relationships. Well, friendships fail, and we think we have friends, yet we still struggle and feel lonely. If you have good friendship, you will not feel lonely. You may have moments of loneliness, and in those periods, you will pick up the phone and say to your friend, I need you, I'm lonely. And your friends will be there. You will feel not alone, right? Or, and you and I have talked about this, you will feel that someone will get in the mud with you. Mm. And I think the problem is we don't give intention to friendship. So think about it. And you and I are both guilty of this. In fact, I would argue that everybody's guilty of this, which is we've got plans booked with a friend. Let's call it a lunch. A work thing comes up. We call up the friend, I got a work thing. And the reason we keep bumping our friends is because they'll understand. They're our friends. So why aren't we prioritizing our friendships? Why aren't we saying to the work thing, I'm sorry, I've got a thing. If we had another meeting, we would say, sorry, I've got an appointment, I can't make it. So why don't we treat our friends with the same intentionality that we treat any other meeting? So one of the things that Will did for a friend that I thought was genius, brilliant, beautiful, Will Godera.
A finite game is defined as known players, fixed rules, and an agreed upon objective. Football, baseball, right? If there's a winner, necessarily there have to be losers, but more important, there's always a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then you have infinite games. Infinite games are defined as known and unknown players, which means you don't necessarily know who all the other players are, and new players can join whenever they want. The rules are changeable, which means every player can play however they want. And the objective is to stay in the game as long as possible, to perpetuate the game. We are players in infinite games every day of our lives, whether we know it or not. No one in here will ever win healthcare. No one will ever win education. No one will ever be declared the winner of your marriage. If you want to be number one in your marriage, good luck with that.
That's for sure.
You can be number two, but you can't be number one. And there's definitely no such thing as winning business. And yet when we listen to the language of so many people in business, it becomes very, very clear they don't know the game they're playing. They talk about being number one, or being the best, or beating their competition. Based on what? Based on what agreed upon metrics, timeframes, and objectives. And this is a problem, because when we play with a finite mindset in an infinite game, when we play to win in a game that has no finish line, there are some very predictable and consistent outcomes. The big ones are the decline of trust, the decline of cooperation, and the decline of innovation. Like when Circuit City went bankrupt, Best Buy didn't win anything, right? And so we have to play for the game that we're in. And if you're in business, to stay in business, versus if you want to just hit some target and get out of it and you don't actually care if the business does good work, then you have to play for the mindset for the game you're playing.